As the dawn of a new season of Formula 1 madness draws near, we at 41-3 thought it would be a good idea to have a look ahead at all the teams and drivers, discuss what needs to improve, or in the case of the rookies, what simply needs to be done. First up, we have the sleeping giant of Williams, and picking where to start with them is quite a challenge in itself because they need to improve almost everything. It's been quite a turbulent off-season with the resignation of team principal Jos Capito, who, according to reports from within the team, just didn't fit with his eccentric management style. However, this is the first symptom of why Williams are where they are. The old school mentality from the old heads who have been there for years, who are downright allergic to new ideas. We won championships operating the way we do. Why would we change? As a reminder, Williams' last championship was in 1997, and that's a hell of a long time in general, but in Formula 1, it's several lifetimes. Hopefully, this resistance to change can be rectified by new team principal James Vowles, who has left his post as head of race strategy at Mercedes. Vowles has been at Mercedes since the start, and prior to their existence has been with Braun, Honda and British American Racing. So he has seen how to run a successful Formula 1 team while at Braun and Mercedes, and also how not to run one in Honda, but more so BAR. But having no team principal experience, is he the right man to steady the ship at Williams? Well, he has been talked about as Toto Wolff's successor in the big job at Merck for a long time, and a lot of people, including me, are taking this as an extremely difficult audition for one of the top jobs in Formula 1. What on earth has happened to this team? Keep in mind that before the new regulations came in, AlphaTauri were up there with Alpine and McLaren in the best of the rest stakes, but seemingly got everything all sorts of wrong in the 2022 off-season. Unlike Williams, AlphaTauri has an extremely capable technical staff in place who know how to build a quick car, and the vast experience of Franz Tost, who is used to running a team on a meager budget and getting the very best of everything he has available. However, they do lose their most prized asset in Pierre Gasly, who managed a podium in 2019 and more famously, a win in 2020. Losing a driver with the talent of Gasly can only be seen as a negative, as he had become part of the furniture there and was very ingrained in that team, especially with the ongoing struggles of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. However, he is being replaced with a world champion in Nick de Vries. How much you regard a Formula E World Championship is entirely up to you, but a champion is a champion. In terms of management and rediscovering pace, I have no concerns with AlphaTauri. They're an excellently run team behind the scenes, and it will only be a matter of time before they get their head around the performance of their car. The concerns come with the two drivers. Possibly one of the most up and down seasons in F1 history has to go to Haas for 2022. Due to the cheeky little invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and Russian money being essentially useless due to global financial sanctions, Haas terminated their sponsorship deal with Earl Cali and sacked Mazepin as he no longer had the means to pay for his seat. A massive blow to the already shoestring budget of Haas compared to anyone else on the grid. They then performed a masterstroke of rehiring Kevin Magnussen, who was very impressive almost every time he took to the track, culminating in Haas's first pole position in Sao Paulo. However, this did shine the spotlight onto Mick Schumacher, who, while scoring his first points of the season at the British Grand Prix and Haas's first double points finish in 3 years, was unremarkable in comparison to Magnussen and also destroyed a lot of cars. Schumacher wasn't especially error prone or incident happy, just when he did bin it, he binned it in a big way. See in Monaco when he managed to hit the wall coming out of the swimming pool chicane and then cut his car in half. You could argue that team principal Gunther Steiner didn't help matters by consistently piling the pressure on Schumacher regarding his seat every chance he got, and he also gave off the distinct impression that he was not a fan of Schumacher on a personal level and was looking for an excuse to be shot of the 2020 F2 champion at any given opportunity. While you could argue that his replacement was warranted based on performances, replacing him with a 35-year-old serial F1 disappointment in Nico Hülkenberg raises a lot of eyebrows as to what Haas are actually trying to do. However, with a larger budget thanks to new title sponsor MoneyGram, may mean that Haas can focus on more progression rather than survival, and are looking for a steady ship rather than having to develop a young driver like Schumacher. A team who have had substantial investment from the Stroll family and are scheduled to open their new factory in 2023 have heaps of promise, but race strategy errors and extremely temperamental cars to set up have held them back substantially. Aston Martin could be considered the massive underachievers in Formula 1 at the moment, due to the sheer amount of investment they've had piled into them since they've changed from Force India to Racing Point and now Aston Martin. Force India and early Racing Point were consistently underfunded due to owner Vijay Mallya being sued constantly thanks to his decidedly dodgy business dealings totaling over $1 billion. Despite this, through shrewd management, excellent strategy and a performance incentive driver contracts were frequently best of the rest. Aston Martin have gone a different direction, lost a lot or fired a lot of their staff, and subsequently lost a lot of fans' goodwill since the takeover, and they haven't had the better of it yet. However, Aston now truly have elite facilities, including their own wind tunnel to try and edge towards the front of the grid where they need to be. The jury is still out on team principal Mike Crack, as the project was in the toilet before he arrived and has been slowly progressing since, with no real dips or jumps in performance to indicate he's doing a good job or a bad job, just maintaining the status quo. This season is a big year for him and his challenging for titles ideals. Being closer to the likes of Alpine and McLaren is a must. It also goes without saying that with Fernando Alonso on board in what could arguably be his last contract in Formula 1, given that he's now north of 40, Aston simply have to deliver. However, 2023 will be very much a year of building for a title fight with Alonso in 2024, so this puts more pressure on Crack & Co to deliver a promising package this year. Where have we heard that one before? A winter of upheaval, but in a positive way, at Alfa Romeo, with Andrea Seidl coming across from McLaren to be their new technical director, and heavy investment and eventual takeover from Audi means that it is without question that Alfa, but really Audi, will be one of the top teams in the next few years. Alessandro Alunni Bravi has also joined the team as their representative, which is as nebulous a title as it gets. It could mean that he does all the media while Seidl just operates in the workshop, but who really knows. Audi do not mess around when they decide that they're going to do some motorsport. When they commit to something, they're all in, rallying, change the sport forever and dominate it. Endurance racing, won Le Mans and the championship with a diesel because it was different. Touring cars, the Audi A4 is arguably the best touring car of all time. Honestly, the more you look into Audi's motorsport history, the more ominous their entry into F1 is for the likes of Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes. Seidl is also probably the best technical director on the grid. He oversaw McLaren rising from the ashes in the previous generation of regulations, and also was a huge success in the Porsche sports car program. While 2023 is very much going to be a season of just going through the motions as far as Alfa Romeo is concerned, the behind the scenes work in preparation for Audi begins now, and they need to make sure that a solid and competitive base is in place. An extremely mixed bag at McLaren last season, with the eventual termination of the Daniel Ricciardo project, which did bring a race win, but also cost a hell of a lot of money with very little return on investment. They also started off the season with an absolute pig of a car, by their recent standard at least, but managed to dial the speed into it as the season progressed, which is a testament to the strength of the technical team Zak Brown has put in place since he became the CEO. However, they have lost what is arguably their best asset in Andrea Seidl, an excellent team leader, man manager and technical boffin. Andrea Stella, the executive race director, a job again as nebulous as it sounds, and close number 2 is replacing him as team principal at McLaren. While I'm sure Stella will do the job aptly, I can't help but feel losing Seidl is a massive blow for the Woking team. While the car is largely a good platform at the moment, if they encounter another engineering problem, how equipped is Stella to lead them out of it? It remains to be seen. Alpine seem to be the very definition of all talk and no show. They claimed that they had sacrificed reliability in order to develop a powertrain more powerful than everyone else in the grid, yet they've ended up with a car that's slower than Red Bull and Ferrari in a straight line, and still blows up more than anything else on the grid. Given that they are a factory team and not a rebranded satellite like Alfa Romeo, their underperformance and struggles with reliability are unacceptable. Also, the whole Piastri saga really exposed how poorly run they are internally, with stories coming out that they have one person on the payroll who dealt with both writing up contracts and sorting out the legality of it all. Safnauer is a steady pair of hands, and has experience running a team, having been at the helm of Force India, Racing Point and Aston Martin prior to his post at Alpine. However, much needs to improve for the Enstone-based team if they want to get where they should be, back to challenging for championships. Losing a frustrated and exasperated Fernando Alonso at the end of 2022 hints that dream is still a long way off, which is a worry for Renault moving forward. The most successful team of the hybrid era will be hoping to leave their 2022 season in the rearview mirror. Despite a slew of podiums and one win, Mercedes struggled to adapt to the new regulations with the W13, suffering from aggressive porpoising early on in the season, extreme drag, severe tyre warm-up issues and a narrow setup window. The bright spot is that despite all these perceived issues, lesser teams wouldn't have gotten close to the podium, never mind manage a win. Merc unquestionably have one of the best technical teams in the history of Formula 1. That was showcased last season, turning an absolute dog of a car with a radically different technical direction to everyone else into a race winner, and arguably a better package than Ferrari by the time the season concluded. The only thing that Merc can hope for to improve is that they start the season off strongly, and they are up there to challenge for a title once again, because it's not even a question of if they got on the pace, but rather when. Well, what is there to say about Ferrari? They started last season with the best package on the grid by a country mile, but ended up struggling to hold on to second place in the Constructors. So what happened, and how can they rectify it in 2023? Well, heads rolled over the winter with Mattia Binotto leaving his role as team principal and the team as a whole he's been a part of since 1995. Fred Vasseur moving over from Sauber replaces him in a move that hasn't filled many people with a great deal of optimism. Vasseur is seen as a safe pair of hands and won't be changing staffing until the end of this season at the earliest, seeing how the team operates and adjusting any failing he sees fit after the fact. Vasseur also says he wishes to bring a greater unity to Ferrari, hinting at a fractured technical team, which could explain their capitulation the last couple of years and the comical strategic errors that contributed in a big way to Charles Leclerc's title challenge falling apart. Binotto is an extremely gifted power unit engineer, but it's clear that he wasn't equipped to deal with the most pressurised job in motorsport. Vasseur has the experience, the cool-headedness and the man management to fix the internal issues of Ferrari, and he is in for the long term. But he also has to sort out the glaring issues in the strategy department immediately if Ferrari really want to challenge Mercedes and Red Bull. The relentless march of the energy drink manufacturer got off to a rocky start last season with a double DNF in the opening race in Bahrain, owing to a dodgy fuel pump. However, this issue was rectified promptly and thus began their ominous march to another Drivers' Championship for Max Verstappen and their first Constructors' title since 2013. While Red Bull has an awful lot of money, you can't take away how incredible this achievement is in the modern era from a team whose business isn't primarily building cars. In terms of improvement for 2023, I genuinely hope they don't make any, because the RB18 was an absolute beast of a car, winning 17 of the 23 races, 15 of those going to Verstappen. The only thing that might cause some turmoil for Red Bull is the potentiality of some internal strife between Perez and Verstappen, owing to the frankly bizarre exchange where the Dutchman wouldn't give up 5th place in the Brazilian Grand Prix to assist Checo in securing 2nd in the championship. While in the end Checo wouldn't have gotten it anyway, Max citing behind the scenes discussions and how he demanded not to be asked that again, despite it being for a nothing position and having already secured his 2nd championship, certainly points towards things not being all rosy in the garden at Red Bull. Also, with Daniel Ricciardo back as a reserve driver, a noted close friend of Verstappen, who knows what sort of things will be going on. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of thing from us as the season ticks on. Do you agree with anything I've said? Probably not. So why not leave us a comment and we can have a big old civil chat in the comments below. But for now, it's goodbye from me and the 41 and 3. Have a good one.